Welcome everybody to episode number 343 of Goulet Q&A, where fountain pens are still a thing. I am Brian Goulet here, and I got a pretty meaty Q&A today. So I'm under a time limit to go get my kids because we have an appointment for dinner. So reservation appointment. What am I talking about? I have a strict time limit, so I'm going to try to make it without having to rush at the end, but I'm already doing bad because I'm over-explaining it. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about avoiding high-maintenance ink for your expensive pens, troubleshooting a problematic Pelikan, cleaning dip pens before use, a custom mix to bring Pilot Tsutsuji back from the grave, single ink sample vial holders, I'm going to spotlight the LAMY nexx, and I'm going to show you my guitar back here. This one that I get asked about a lot. I'm going to show that one off. We got a lot going on today, so let's start off with feedback. All right, starting off with 5678. This is taking too long. Oh, hey, it worked. Thanks for the ideas on how to remove the barcode from a Platinum Preppy. I did this last week. I'm not particularly strong, and when I saw you trying with a nail file, I grabbed one, a paper one similar to the one that you showed, and rubbed it on one of my Preppies, and the barcode thing was gone. I'm talking seconds here, not minutes. Wow, cheers for the ideas. Much appreciated. Hope the weather improves. Well, thank you. The weather has improved, and I'm really glad that tip was helpful. Sam, the Battleship, says, I feel like the wet versus dry ink would need to take into consideration the nib sizes, pen brands, papers, and the list could go on, and it would be the longest video project ever, but I would watch it all. Yeah, if I was going to do some kind of measurement regarding wetness, I would need to eliminate all other variables and just stick to the ink. Sort of like I do with the Nib Nook writing sample. I standardize the paper, I standardize the ink. That way it's just the nibs that make a difference. So yeah, I don't know how I would do that, but there's so many inks out there. There's like over 800 inks. There's way more ink colors that we have than there are nib types. So it would be even more work than it would be for the Nib Nook. But anyway, appreciate the idea. All right, Honey and Space says, hi, Brian. I also play guitar along with being a fountain pen enthusiast, and I was wondering what that guitar is that you have in the background in your videos. It looks really cool too. How long have you been playing? I've been playing acoustic guitar for 3 years now. I have a Yamaha F310, but I've been wanting to upgrade soon. Been watching Goulet pens for around 6 years and would love to hear your experiences more with other hobbies too. That could be its own whole Q&A. Maybe I'll make that a theme. I got 350 coming up here. Maybe I'll make that a Q&A feature on all of the other weird hobbies that I have that are not fountain pen related. Would that be interesting to you? I don't know. Would you be disappointed coming to a Q&A that doesn't have anything about pens? I don't know. Let me know. Ann Wagner says, I loved having the inks on your latest ink showdown dripped onto the paper towel. It helps to show what the constituent colors are in the ink, so I enjoy doing it with my new inks. It's also often just pretty and fun. As an artist, once I realized an ink has interesting different colors within it, it's fun to work with it on paper using a water brush. Yeah, that is a very cool thing. I'm not a watercolor artist, but I've definitely seen a lot of really cool stuff that people have done relating to like watercolor using fountain pen ink. You can, do what's called pulling colors out of it, which is really neat. You kind of water down the ink and then you can like pull it out. A lot of people use brush pens too. They'll like put ink down either with a fountain pen or, a dip pen or glass pen or something like that. And then they'll have a brush pen with water in it and they'll use that to sort of like pull it out. I don't know. There's lots of different ways to do it. I'm by no means an expert there, but that's a whole other exciting rabbit hole you can go down if you just want to play with more of your inks, which is great for samples too, because you can experiment more. And yeah, anyway. Jay Milaj says, as someone who works in company culture /HR, I love hearing that you all do 360s, etc. So many companies don't realize their greatest their greatest asset is actually their team. Yes, I would say probably some companies, their team might be their greatest liability. But if you approach it that way, then let's see here, the expression that I heard a while ago, I don't remember the source, but it says that you will get the employees that you deserve, meaning that like however well you run your company, that's how well you're going to have people that work for you. So I take it as a high compliment, I guess, that I have a great team, even though I'm saying it. So I'm complimenting myself, I guess, in that way. Whatever. Our team gets a lot of compliments from y'all too. So I'll take it that way. Either way, yes, it's very important. You got to invest in your team if you want to have a good company. So thank you. I appreciate that you appreciate it. All right. Marianne Hummel says, yay for trying painting. This year I started to experiment with watercolor, talk about humbling, for all the reasons you mentioned. As a crossover, I've been inspired by people who use fountain pen ink to paint with, a great way to use up samples. We just talked about this, yes. Worlds Collide, what a great episode, thank you. Well, that's exciting, Marianne. I fully support starting new ventures, especially ones that are artistic and seem scary and have a big learning curve. That's what drew me to fountain pens initially, and that's what's drawn me to a lot of other hobbies I have, various music, woodworking, Rubik's Cube solving, now painting. So it's exciting to try new things. And I don't know how y'all feel. Part of me, when I was much younger, I'm 41, I'll be 42 soon. Part of me, I guess when I was younger, I thought like the older you get, the more kind of locked in that you get to particular ways of doing things, based on how I observed certain adults and just what I assumed. But I got to be honest with you, my mind may not be quite as elastic as it used to be when I was younger. That is definitely evident when I play video games with my children and they wipe the floor with me. But I do know a bunch of things. And because I've tried a bunch of different hobbies in my life, when I start something new, I find that I can pull a lot of other experiences and stuff from these other things that I've learned over time. And it makes it actually a little bit easier for me to pick up new things. I don't find it quite as scary. So I don't know. It's one of those things that like the more you do, the more exciting it is and the more you understand the process and you're not as discouraged in the beginning when things are harder because you know this process, you've been through this a bunch and you're like, oh, I just got to kind of power through this phase. So anyway, that's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying that, Marianne. Maybe watercolor is something I need to get into after that because, obviously I play with a lot of ink. And once I understand more painting and color mixing and, things like that, I don't know, maybe watercolor will be in my future. My sister and my mom are both really good watercolor artists. So I don't know, maybe we'll see. I'm gonna stick to one at a time though. Oatmeal XO says, hello, artist here. And I'd like to say you did a great job with the painting. Thank you very much. A reminder that artists have spent years working in this field, so the expectation to be perfect after only a few hours would be totally unrealistic. And what is perfect anyway? Looking forward to seeing your skills grow and more importantly, to see how you make them your own. Meanwhile, I've been moving in your direction of recently taking on spoon carving. Hey, nice. I love it. I love all these hobbies that we're getting into. It's just, there's something about making and creating, building. I don't know. I'm a big fan of it. So I encourage that at any point, obviously with pens, but with other things too. Okay. Last but not least, Frag85 says, thank you for providing timestamps. Oh, you're welcome. Can you do a chart or video on waterproof ink dry times? I've noticed some take forever. Oh, that's true. That would be interesting. We do have a lot of ink reviews that we have on our blog. We try to also post them on the product pages for the inks themselves. But that's kind of hit or miss. Obviously you have to look up, if you want to see all the ink reviews, which we have done, you can go to our blog and see them all listed out and then maybe get some sense of it. Though I guess you have to click in and see which inks are waterproof. You got to do a little bit of work. To get to that, but it's hard because there's a lot of different inks. So I don't know, I'll give this some thought. But either way, what I was saying is that we have dry times for all of the inks that we've done reviews on, including a bunch of waterproof ones. So I don't know, I'll give this some thought. Let's talk about some new stuff. All right, we got a new Monteverde Ritma Mimosa. Have I talked about this before? I feel like I talked about it before, but maybe not. Maybe it was on my Q&A outline previously, but we didn't have it in stock, so I didn't mention it. I don't remember, and I don't have time to look it up. So, but either way, it's a nice yellow pen. We have it in fountain pen, and we're trying to rollerball as well, because, why not? If y'all like rollerballs, we offer them, you buy them, everybody's happy. If you don't like them, then we will stop carrying them. It's pretty straightforward. Business isn't that hard sometimes. Okay, anyway, we got those pretty affordable, $44 for the fountain pen. Ritma is a really, really popular pen. So yeah, cartridge converter, standard international comes with the converter, Yovo nibs. Yeah, so lots of good stuff there. It is a limited edition though, so it's like their Ritma Pen of the Year color. They'll have it for a while, but it's an anodized aluminum metallic yellow with gunmetal trim. It looks pretty cool. Next up, we got some Faber-Castell. Yes, this is a brand that we're bringing back from the grave. We used to carry it years ago. Some of the models and stuff that we were carrying at the time, they discontinued and changed them up, and we dropped it, and there just wasn't a lot that people were asking us for, so we didn't carry it for a while. They got a couple new pens that we're trying out again. So one of them is called Poly Pens, and I actually have a couple of them here. I'm not going to do a full thing. If you want to, if you want me to play around with them more, let me know. But they're kind of cool. They're like a triangular kind of shape. They're like a soft kind of plastic, I guess. And they have somewhat of a triangular grip as well. So if that's not your thing, steer away. It has a little bit of texture on the grip, but it's not too bad. It's just a couple little lines. It's not sharp or anything like that. But yeah, anyway, so number 5 size nibs. They write pretty well, fine, medium, and broad. Standard international. I got a cartridge in this one. Yeah, $22 for these things. So you get in black, blue, and pale iris. So there you go. That's what these are. I've been playing with them more, and yeah, I've always liked the nibs. So the steel nibs on the Faber-Castells have always been good. We used to carry the Faber-Castell Loom. I don't know if you remember that thing. We carried those a bunch as a metal one, but these are lighter, and I like the kind of softer plastic. So I don't know, we'll give it a shot, see what y'all like. And then we also have another Faber-Castell. This is called the Hexo. So this is a aluminum one. These are a little bit more, $50. There's a bronze and a black one. This is a little more kind of LAMY All-Star-esque, if you will. It's a little bit different pen, but it's got that kind of finish to it. It's a fairly light pen, even though it is metal. Posts well. It's got a sort of a hexagonal thing. It's like sort of rounded, I guess, tapered, but yeah, I guess it's hexagonal. I was thinking it was like, yeah, well, it's called the Hexo, isn't it? That would make sense. Anyway, yeah, neat pen, snap cap. Pretty cool. $50 for these ones. Yeah, so we've got those now. Those are going to be extra fine, medium, and broad. So the extra fines, I will say, they're pretty fine. They're very, they're a little bit toothy. They don't feel scratchy, but they are dry. So if you don't like to feel your nib on the page, maybe stick with like the fine, preferably medium or broad. Anyway, so those are good. Quick company updates, and then let's get into the questions. All right, my only real company update that we have is we got a video called, well, I don't know what the title is at this point, but I did an interview with Ken Jones, who I'm calling the most interesting man in the fountain pen world. He's had a very well-traveled life. He's been in the pen business for 3 decades. And yeah, he's just a very, very interesting guy. Got some cool stories. We've been working with him for well over a decade. And he's just somebody that like I know really well, but you all probably don't know him that well. I'm sure you've seen him at a pen show if you've ever been to one. But yeah, so I did a nice like 50-minute interview with him. So you can go and check that out. Other than that, I don't really have a lot to mention at the moment. So we'll just go right into questions. All right, first question here is from Jordan Quiros. Should high maintenance ink be avoided in expensive pens? Should it be thoughtfully considered? Yes. Should it be avoided? Maybe. A lot of this is going to come down to personal risk tolerance, personal preference, personal, I don't know, cleaning patience. So I will say, as long as you're using an ink that's made for fountain pens, with super, super rare exception, you can use, pretty much any ink in any pen. Some of them might be harder to clean out than others. Some of them, you may want to try to keep more pristine. So it's like you may want to avoid certain like shimmer inks and high sheening inks and stuff like that. But even then, it's not necessarily inherently because the pens are expensive, unless there's like a particular material of pen that's like prone to staining, like wood or leather or something like that. Maybe some, but then that would kind of be susceptible to any ink. I don't know. I mean, me personally, I have pens kind of a bunch of different price ranges. I'm really not too afraid to use whatever ink that I have in any of my pens. That is one nice thing about pens is, they're tools. And so, yes, the really, really expensive ones become more, as much art as they are tools, but it's art that you can use. So I'm a little more of the mentality that's like, use what makes you happy. And less so of like, you have to stick with one particular ink, or you have to, stick with the ink that's the brand of the pen. It's never a bad way to go, because, any manufacturer that is testing out inks in their pens, they're most likely to test out the inks that they are branded, you know what I mean? Like their own inks in their pens. And there may be some like recommendations from certain brands to like, they recommend using their inks, or they say that they test their inks, in their pens. And so they'll recommend using those. But honestly, it's kind of up to you. It's kind of up to you. If you feel like dealing with cleaning it out, if you feel like, pretty much once you ink up a pen, it's a used pen at that point. So, and honestly, like with rare exception, none of these things are like investment, things. These are really things that you use, that you enjoy. Are you going to hurt the value of them? Are you going to whatever? No, not really. So just use whatever makes you happy. That's kind of where I stand on it. Soda Depp says, I recently got an M800, my first Pelikan. When I write with anything below like a 70-degree angle, I get flow issues. It'll write for a few words and then dries up. Any advice for fixing it, or is this just a Pelikan thing? I've tried writing with wetter inks, Monteverdes, Iroshizukus, but I'm still having flow issues. Is a fine nib? That's an interesting question. So first thing, before I read that it was a fine nib, I was thinking if it was like a broad or a stub. They tend to have baby's bottom. I will just kind of write it out just so you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to show, especially so close up. But basically baby's bottom, if you're looking straight at the nib, like straight on like this, basically you've got your slit of your nib here, you've got your rounded portion here, right? So this is your rounded nib that you're looking straight on. If you have baby's bottom, or what's known as baby's bottom, that's when the inside corner here gets really, really rounded off, like that. And then the ink that normally, is held through its own surface tension, will hold on here. If it's too rounded here at the bottom, then the ink won't make it all the way down to the paper. And you can end up with skipping issues or hard starting issues. That's usually like the number one culprit when you have something like skipping. I would make sure that the pen is clean, because if the pen's not flowing, well, then that's going to restrict the flow and give you more hard starting and stuff like that. So I would give it a thorough flush if you haven't cleaned it yet. I don't know all the details of everything that you've been into here, though you did provide me a decent amount of information. Another thing that can happen, so if you're looking, at the nib, let's see here. Let's do another nib drawing. So here's my nib, and then, wait a minute, how do I'm going the wrong direction with it here. Forget that. Okay. Here's my nib. Okay, like that. That's how you draw a nib. This is terrible. Again, I am not a drawer here. But anyway, so you've got your tipping up here. So you've got a breather hole. The slit of the nib, when it's cut, it initially gets cut, and it's a fairly wide channel. It's as wide as whatever the blade is that's used to cut it. As long as that's straight or narrows slightly, the ink is going to travel in the direction that it's constricting. That's going to assist in its own like capillary action. If it's too far apart, you can end up with, this is usually happens when the nib gets overflexed and the tines can actually spread out a bit. Then you can end up with a break in flow, because the ink is trying to kind of work, and it's like swimming up a waterfall, right? It's not the way that the ink wants to go. It's kind of wanting to flow backwards. You want it to be tapering, and I can't easily draw. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry for my drawings, y'all. Ta-da! There. You want it to be tapering, like so. as it gets to the tip. That's ideal right there. This ink is very wet. This is Emerald of Chivor, by the way. Okay, so you want it to be tapering like so. And what can also, so you can end up with it either too wide or you can end up with it too constricted. Coming from the factory, it's almost never too wide like this, unless it just straight up hasn't been adjusted for some reason, but on an M800, that would not be the case. It is possible that the tines, because they have to sort of bend the tines together, and then they do all the tuning and adjustment and smoothing and all that kind of stuff. It is possible sometimes that the tines can be very tight together, and if you have a light hand, you know, then it could be just kind of a restricted flow. So one thing you could try, without over flexing it, just try writing, you know, hold it at a lower angle and try writing with a little more pressure and see. You know, so like here with this nib, granted this is a steel nib, so it's not going to be as flexible as your gold nib. But if I write with it just, you know, under its own weight pretty much, it's going to write a line like that. If I write with a little more pressure, not really flexing it out, but you can see there how much darker that line is. Try that. And if that writes reliably with a heavier hand, then that might give you some indication that it could either be a baby's bottom thing, because sometimes when you press on the nib and more ink flows out, that can sort of overcome the baby's bottom issue. Or you can you might have a little bit restricted tines there. If it's where the tines are really tight together, a lot of this you can see it through a loop, right? You know, I don't know if you have a loop. Here's an example of what a loop looks like. I don't know how easy it's going to be able to see. But if you look at the nib straight on, like so, you're not really going to be able to tell, but you know, if you're holding the nib like this and you look at it straight on, then you can see how tight that slit is, and if it's tapering towards the tip. If it looks like it's really, really tight, especially when it's not inked, if you can't see any light through that slit, I mean, you can't obviously where there's a feed behind it, but if you can't see any light through it, it might be too tight. There's ways that you can measure that more carefully with feeler gauges, but now we're getting into a whole different territory. We're getting into actually like nib tuning, repair kind of stuff. We're already kind of getting into a territory that's like, this is especially, you know, on your first Pelikan like this, you paid hundreds of dollars for this thing. You maybe don't want to experiment with nib tuning on a pen like this. But that's kind of what's likely to go on. I think either you've got a little bit of baby's bottom, which again is not as typical with a fine nib, though it certainly could happen. And that is something that it can be fixed on your own, but it's tough. And if you don't do it right, then it could be really frustrating, because then to get it fixed, if you do it wrong, is much more complicated, and you would have to like send it to somebody. But as soon as you go tuning your own nib, the manufacturer probably is not going to take it back as a warranty thing. So you got to be careful when you start doing that. The other thing is if it's a pinched tine like that, you could try gently and thoughtfully, cautiously. You can try just springing the tines a little bit yourself. This is a risky move. Sometimes that can open up, or if you really feel like you want to, you can just take your thumbnail and like bend up the tines a little bit to get them opened. It's effectively doing the same thing. But if you overdo it, well, now you've opened up your tines too much and you're going to have other problems. So again, calculated risk, but that is how you would fix. If it's over pinched like that, you can open it up a little bit, and then it might help with the flow. All that to say, do you want to do that on a $500 plus pen? Maybe not. So I would reach out to wherever you bought the pen. If you bought it from us as a retailer, please let us know. We can help troubleshoot it in more detail. We could get it back. We could take a look at it ourselves. You know, we want to get you a pen that's working well for you, especially a pen that's that expensive. You want that thing writing exactly like you want it. Now, you know, is it possible that pen was tuned to kind of more optimally write it around 70 degrees? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, each one of these things is done by hand. It's possible that that's just the way it is. And if it's not comfortable for you, it may be better to actually get it tuned by a nib professional, especially if you can see them in person at a show. That's the most ideal, but that's not practical for everybody, especially depending on where you live. But you can get things like custom tuned to a nib pro and say, hey, I tend to hold my pens at such an angle. They can really get it tuned up right. If it's like been too long, or you bought it secondhand or something like that, and you can't go through either the retailer you got it from or whoever the warranty like distributor is. In the US here, at least, it's Coles of London. So they're the ones who distribute Pelikan. They've actually got a nib person there on staff. So they might be able to help troubleshoot something like that a little better than most. So yeah, hope is not lost, but you know, it is a thing that's like disappointing for sure. My first Pelikan was a 1.5 millimeter stub that was baby bottom like crazy. And I was in like my first year of fountain pen usage, and I thought that the more you spend on a pen, the happier you're going to be with it. And that was a big lesson to me. I've since gotten it tuned up and everything's good, but Pelikan, they make great nibs, but they do tend to, polish them a bit and lean a bit on the side of baby's bottom. Very generous flow, very wet, much more conducive to heavy-handed writing. And if that's not your style, then I could see where it maybe could be an issue. But either way, if you want more specific advice, reach out to my team and we will try and help troubleshoot. Stokefinity Cubed. I have a newbie question about dip pen nibs. How do you clean the nib for first use? I have seen one person say you have to boil it and someone else say that you don't have to do anything. And then I read something about just dipping it in ink a few times. Thanks. I'm not a dip pen expert, but I know enough to be dangerous. And I do know generally how to clean these things. So I felt comfortable answering this question. And it's something that I can caveat a little bit because we do sell some dip pens, but not the nibs that you're talking about. So what you're talking about here, this is an offset pen holder. This is the pen nib. So the OG term is a pen and a pen holder. Whereas a fountain pen, you think of like this whole thing is the pen, and then you have the nib. So this is also called a nib. It gets confusing. But either way, you're talking about the metal nib thing. Now, with fountain pens, you don't have to do any of this stuff, right? It comes clean, it comes prepped, it's ready to use. It's made of stainless steel, which is corrosion resistant, and it's meant to be used for years and years and years and years and years. The thing is, it's a little stiffer. It's a little less springy and flexible. When you're using dip pens with things like copper plate and Spencerian writing, lots of other scripts as well, you want flexibility in your nib tines. So they are not made of stainless steel, typically. They're made of what's called spring steel. So it's basically steel that is meant to be springy. I don't know exactly the chemical makeup of spring steel, if it's just called spring steel. I don't know. I didn't go down this rabbit hole too much, but either way, it's called spring steel, and it is not as corrosion resistant, right? So it'll last for a little while, but they are meant to be disposable because you're flexing them, you're bending them, you're writing with them. They're not tipped. You know, there's no harder metal that's welded onto here. It's literally just stamped out, and then they're meant to be disposable. Now they'll last, a few weeks or whatever with regular use, and then you throw it out and you get new ones, but they're also less expensive than fountain pens. So anyway, you get a whole bunch of these things, then you just use them like that. But they do need to be prepped. Now, because they are not as corrosion resistant as stainless steel nibs are, that means that coming from the manufacturer, they will tend to coat them in some kind of oil to keep them from corroding while they're in transit or while they're, sitting there on a shelf at a retailer's place or, whatever it may be. Because it could be, months or potentially years from the time it's manufactured till it actually makes it into your hands. So they want to coat it in something to keep it from corroding. So that very thing that they coat it with might, not mix well with the ink that you're using, and it could impede some of the flow and cause you some issues. So it's kind of well known throughout the dip pen community that you always clean your nibs. It might be that some people use certain nibs and they know they don't coat it as much, or that it's not coated, or whatever it may be. So it may not be necessary. That might be why you're getting some like mixed advice there. But either way, the whole point of it is to get the oils off of it from the manufacturer and get it to be just a plain steel nib. That way your ink will attach onto it the way that it's meant to and flow the way that it's meant to, and you can have smooth writing and go about your day. There's a lot of different ways that I've seen it used. Boiling it, using a flame, I'm not as big a fan of this particular method, but yes, since it's an oil, you can kind of burn it off, I guess. I don't know. To me, then if you have soot and stuff like that, that could be another issue. But some people do that with a candle or a lighter. The hotter the flame, the less likely there is to be soot. Washing it with a dish soap or like a pen flush, maybe something like alcohol or Windex. These are all things that I hear people use, some kind of degreaser, some kind of cleaner. And then you can optionally use a toothbrush as well. That gets even cleaner, is an option. And then toothpaste is another thing that I've heard. That's got, a little bit of abrasive to it. It's got cleaner in it, obviously. So that could be an option as well. I would not recommend using the toothbrush that you use to brush your teeth, though. Use an old toothbrush. Anyway, so that's pretty much what you do. And then I want to give a shout out to Miss Marilyn Darling, because I know you comment a lot. And yeah, when I was Googling this just to see like what I know people have, content out there, Miss Marilyn Darling's YouTube video came up near the top. So, Miss Marilyn Darling was using a Dawn and a toothbrush. So right in that mix of what I thought. So yeah, that's it. Doesn't take too long, but it's an important part of that whole process. But again, not necessary for fountain pen usage, but we got a little bit of crossover in between these worlds, so thought it might be helpful. Vasilios Demos says, "Hey Brian, looking great." Thanks. I've discovered a way to make the discontinued Pilot Tsutsuji ink. Mix 90 to 95% Hana-ikada with the rest Yama-budo. Would you be willing to do a video on it? Well, yes, I would. I'm gonna do it right now. So, let's take a look. I don't have Tsutsuji handy. Maybe Rachel has a bottle of it somewhere at home. I didn't check, but I have a swab of it. So we used to carry this ink. Pilot discontinued it. But I do have a little bit of Yama-budo and some Hana-ikada. So I wanted to experiment a little bit. So I'm gonna do a little custom ink mixing. I got some ink syringes. I don't do a lot of ink mixing, but I don't know, something about the way you asked the question, maybe because you flattered me at the beginning. I'm just kidding. No, I just thought it was kind of fun and be easy to show what's going on. Okay, so Yama-budo is the thing that doesn't have as much. So I'm gonna do primarily Hana-ikada. I don't know how I'm not gonna like try and measure this out super duper scientifically. But let's see, I am going to try and drip out like a certain number of drops. So that's how I'm gonna measure it. I'm gonna do like 19 drops roughly of the Hana-ikada and then like 1 drop of Yama-budo. So let's see here, 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Oh, I did 20. Okay. It's okay. All right. This is going to be approximate. And then I'm going to swab all of these up so you can see what the difference is, because I think it's kind of interesting. And then Yama-budo. I'm going to use a different syringe because that would throw off our mixture, right? These little syringes are great for this kind of thing. We also sell disposable pipettes, which can be really good for this kind of thing as well. All right, the question is, can I get like a drop? Oop, there. 1 drop. Now I get to clean out a syringe for 1 drop. Oh, looks like I got a second. Whoop, that is not the cap. Looks like I got a second drop on the paper, so that's okay. I'm gonna wipe that up real quick. Okay, and then it's not a lot of ink to mix up. We'll go ahead and give it a little mix. Now I'm not gonna put it in a fountain pen because it's not that much ink, and I'm just gonna use a dip pen. I just wanna give you the gist of what it looks like. And I do need to get a water cup real quick. I recently thought, why don't I bring a big jug of water and keep it in my office so I don't have to run all the way to the water fountain every time I need to clean out a dip pen or glass pen or something like that. So I'm learning after 16 plus years. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna use a Kakimori. So first I'm gonna do the straight up Hana-ikada. Boom. Nice, like kind of bubblegummy pink. Clearly it is lighter than our Tsutsuji. So we'll write this out. This is going to be 100% Hana. And then we're going to do 100% Yama. And then we're going to do our, what is it, 95% Hana and 5% Yama. Okay, here's my Yama-budo, 100%. Clearly much darker. This is a great color though. This is by far the most popular of any of these inks. Yama-budo. I believe Konpeki, well, I think Takasumi might be the most popular, the black one. Konpeki is way up there. After that, I think it's Yama-budo. Ajisai might be up there too. It probably depends on the day of the week, which one's selling better. Okay, and then our mixture. Let's see. It seems to me like it would be somewhere in between. Okay, and then just for kicks, I know I've thrown off the mixture a little bit just because, whoops, I knocked over the vial, but there's so little of it, it didn't spill. I'm going to put just a little more of the Yama-budo in there, just see if I can just, whatever is kind of left in the syringe there, just to see if I can get a little more of a mixture, just to see if we can fine tune it, because I'm working with such small quantities here. Add a little bit more. It seems like you could probably fine tune it. Just add a tiny, tiny little bit more of Yama-budo. That doesn't look too much different than that, does it? Probably because I didn't work with enough quantity, but I don't know. That definitely is a lot closer, wouldn't you say? I think if maybe a little bit more Yama-budo could get us closer to it, that's pretty spot on. And then, you know, every ink is a little bit different, but I would imagine since it's Iroshizuku, the properties are going to be fairly similar. It's in the same color family. You know, each dye is going to behave a little bit differently, so it's not necessarily going to be the same properties and whatnot from one ink to the other, even though it's the same brand. But I would imagine that it's going to perform somewhat similar. So there you go. If you are missing your Tsutsuji, you might be able to mix it a little bit and get pretty close to what it used to be. So I appreciate the recommendation, Vasilios. That was fun. Yeah. If y'all have any other ink mixture recommendations, especially, we do get asked from time to time about discontinued colors and, you know, what is close to it or what mixture could be close to it. We don't experiment a lot with that because the vast majority of the time when inks get discontinued, for us, it's because they're not as popular and not selling well. So the interest in them is not very high. So we are not spending a lot of time trying to replace the inks that weren't popular enough for people to want. It's a little bit different with Iroshizuku because they discontinued it. I don't know why, but that happened. So yeah. Last question I have is from K. McCormick. Have you ever thought of carrying holders for single ink sample vials? Have I thought of it? Yes. Yes, I have thought of it. Not in like a I'm actively pursuing it kind of way. We do sell the vial holder that holds 50 different vials, I think it is. Oh gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head now. I have it right over there. Let me grab it real quick so I can show you. Is it 50? I should know this off the top of my head. It's 40, not 50. 50 would be a lot. So this is our ink sample vial. Vial holder. We have this custom made. We used to sell some like disposable put together ones, but they were not the best quality and they were harder and harder to come by reliably. So we had our own made. It is super handy. You can also use it for pens if you want to, but yeah, the whole concept of having these is pretty handy. It's not necessarily meant to like fill it, though you certainly can fill from it. You know, if I have an ink sample vial and I wanted to, you know, have it in here, I can certainly fill from it without, you know, having to worry about knocking it over. So that does accomplish it. But of course, if it's like somewhere in the middle here, that could be a little harder to get to, I guess. So the main motivation I've seen from people in the past that have wanted a single ink sample vial holder is because they want to use it for filling. You're not necessarily going to have like one of them sitting on your desk. So I've never seen anything commercially available that is for such a purpose. Maybe that's what you're asking me for, is can I get you something like that? maybe, but I don't know that the demand's really going to be there. This is where 3D printers can come into play. And the main reason I want to take this question is because I have actually been sent a couple of prototypes from fans/customers before, whose names I will leave unpublicized since I did not ask them ahead of time. But I've been sent a couple of things just over the years that are kind of fun and interesting. I don't know if these are proprietary or whatever, but I'm just showing you what they are. So ink sample vial. So there's two different ones. One is just kind of a holder like this. Similar concept to the vial holder, I guess. They even have like Goulet pens in the front of it. I thought that was kind of neat. So this is a much more kind of substantial one. That's just kind of meant to hold your sample there, right? So that is one concept. This one I thought was pretty interesting. So it's just a simple block. It's made to hold the sample vial like so, but it holds it at an angle. So it makes it a little bit easier to fill from it, from a fresh sample. And then when it gets really low, it's meant so you can lay it down and you can fill it laying down too when the ink level gets a little lower. I thought that was pretty neat. But again, it's like, this is something that would have to be kind of custom made, custom printed. You know, it's not a lot of plastic, so I can't imagine the cost would be too high, but it would be a thing that you need to program and do the whole thing. So I don't know. Is there interest in some concept like this? I wouldn't want to just like rip this off or whatever, because it's like, it was not my design. But I don't know. I'd never messed around with 3D printing because I know it's going to be a deep rabbit hole that I'll never come out of. But you know how I am. So, yeah, that's what I've seen so far. I don't know of anything else really that's out there other than something that's made to just hold a single pen. And these ink vials are similar in diameter to a pen. So any type of pen stand, like individual pen stand, is probably going to be able to hold an ink sample vial. So yeah, but those are kind of neat. So I just wanted to show you those and gauge interest and see, like, you know, is there something more to your ink vial filling experience that you would like to have? Let me know. All right, that's it for questions this week. I wanted to do a pen spotlight, just a quick one, on the LAMY nexx. So let's do that. All right, LAMY nexx. Coming back, baby. I have a video that is, oh my gosh, it's from a while ago, where we had the LAMY nexx previously. And I have my son in that video. I think he's 2.5 maybe. He's very, very young, and he's listing off the colors of the pens. It's adorable. Those pens we don't even carry anymore. They've changed them up since. So the video itself is not relevant anymore. I just have never wanted to take it down because my son is now almost an adult.
Area.
What color?
Yellow. Yeah.
What's this?
Here.
What is it?
Brown.
Brown? No, it's green.
Yeah, green.
What color is this one?
Pink.
Yeah. What color is this one?
Red.
Red. What about this one?
Black.
What about this one?
Black. Blue.
Blue and
Green.
green.
Joseph, can you say bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
But he's very cute in that video. So let's talk about the LAMY nexx. Okay, so this is the LAMY nexx. It is more of a kid pen. They kind of market it as such. In fact, the nib size is not even the same conventional nib size as the other LAMY nibs, though it is the same nib that you can use. It is listed as an A nib size. It's basically a medium nib, but they just call it A because it's easier, I guess. For comparison, I have a LAMY Safaris here, a Safari and an All-Star. So it's kind of like in between, sort of. The cap is a little different. It definitely looks a bit more juvenile at the top, but the bottom body looks pretty nice. So they used to have two different models. They used to have the LAMY nexx, and then they had the nexx M. The regular nexx used to have just a very bright, like primary color top to it. And it actually used to have a longer clip that stuck up past the top, and it had like a square cutout, or like a, I forget if it was square or round, but it used to have a cutout so you could like put it on a lanyard. That definitely made it look more like a kid's pen. This is is a little more adolescent. And then it had like a black body, a black or gray bottom. And then the nexx M was the one that was the aluminum bottom, like this one. These are both special editions. That's part of why we're picking them up. We just wanted to try them out. We haven't carried the nexx in a while. We thought these looked kind of interesting, so we picked them up. But if you know LAMY and you know how they write, you're going to know what these pens are. So aluminum body on here. It does have a triangular grip, but it's a slightly different triangular grip than what you get on the Safari. It's not as harsh. It's a little bit thicker of a grip. Does not have as sharp of an edge as the Safari does. So it's a little bit more of a compromise. And the plastic itself is a little bit softer. It feels almost a little rubbery. It's not rubber, but it almost feels like that. It's probably made of a slightly different type of plastic. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Oh, this one does say M on it. Oh, maybe the A thing, I'm just making that up. Huh. It says M on it. Maybe it's just available on medium nib. It says medium. Maybe I'm totally making that up. Okay, well, I stand corrected then. I spoke too soon. These are the first I've pulled these pens and looked at them. Yeah, okay, never mind. Straight up, just LAMY nib. LAMY steel nib. You can pull it off. You can, swap it out. The guts are going to be the same as all the other LAMY pens, so you know how it's going to write. Comes with your LAMY blue cartridge, and yeah, that's what it looks like. It's pretty light in general. The cap does post. It's a little wobbly because it's got a triangular grip, or sorry, a triangular kind of shape to it, but it still posts fairly securely. The cap's really light, so it's not easily going to fling off. Yeah, it's pretty light and pretty decent. Yeah, I don't know. How much are these things? I think they're a little bit less than a Safari too. It's a couple bucks less. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious what y'all think of these. I think the blue one in particular, the red looks a little clashy to me. I don't know. But this one looks really cool. I like the color scheme. Particularly just the body of it. So yeah, that is the LAMY nexx. Here's the All-Star as well. Yeah, this is the new Pine All-Star. So yeah, it's got similar grip to the Safari here, a little more harsher triangle. But this one's a little bit thicker. So I don't know, if you like the LAMY style pens, you want something that's kind of a throw around workhorse pen. You like being able to swap the nibs maybe, but you wanted something that didn't have as harsh of a triangular grip. Maybe this is an option for you. If you have this in your like suit jacket pocket, maybe not as professional looking, but still a decent writing pen because it's going to write the same as all these other ones. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what kind of reaction we're going to get with these LAMY nexxes. It has been, I don't even remember how long it's been since we carried the nexx. It's probably been 8 to 10 years. I don't know. I think about like, oh, it's been a few years. And I'm like, wait a minute. COVID was 6 years ago. And it was definitely before that. So it was probably more than 10 years ago. But either way, I think it was 13 years ago maybe that we did that video. The old LAMY nexxes. Whoops. Wrong pen. There we go. Well, that does look kind of cool though. Got my pine pen on the charcoal. Yeah. Oh, interesting. So I can't put the Safari cap onto the All-Star. I don't know that I've ever tried swapping the caps before. It's just a happy little accident there. How about that? So the Safari cap won't go on the All-Star. I know it's because the band here is a little bit wider on the All-Star, but it seems like it, because when it caps, it's actually gripping this part right here, right around the end. So that's the same on both of these, but I guess because the body is a little bit thicker on the All-Star, it won't fit. Huh. But if you, damage your All-Star body and you want to swap it onto your Safari cap, you can do that. That's kind of fun, as if you need more color combinations here. Anyway, that's the LAMY nexx. I wanted to show that to you. Go check it out. We got it at gouletpens.com. All right, let's move to Brian's adventures. I have had fewer adventures because I've been doing development reviews and other such things. I'm still doing drum lessons, still drumming away like crazy. But I did pick up painting. I did 2 more paintings this weekend. I feel like I definitely had some lessons learned from the first one that I did, but I was pretty pleased with how it turned out. So just so I could really compare, I did the same painting 2 more times. So I'll throw up an image of all 3 of them. I'm definitely feeling good about my trees and a little bit better about my mountains. The clouds a little bit too. I'm still not as 100% happy with those. But man, that path, I still can't get that path straight. It is just a hot mess. I think what it is the paint's too thick and it's getting like really muddy and kind of sticky. So I know I'm at that point where I know that I'm doing something wrong. I don't know exactly why, and I don't know exactly how to fix it, but I know as I'm doing it that it's not working as it should. And boy, is that a frustrating place to be. Not so frustrating that I'm not enjoying it, but it is, I'm in that steep part of the learning curve where it's like, okay, I had to get the initial supplies. I have to sit down and actually like do the thing, but I still have some, I feel like once I get it figured out, once I get the paint like thickness and all that kind of stuff, it's like the technique of doing it is not what's hanging me up. It's the material itself, because it's oil paints. I'm doing just straight up oil paint. So there's some basic things that I need to learn and understand. And then I feel like I'm going to really be able to dial it in. So I'm going to keep at it. I will say though, I'm using odorless mineral spirits, as my cleaner, and it smells. It's not truly odorless. And I know that because I've done a lot of, wood finishing and stuff like that. So I know how to properly care for solvents and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to leave bunched up, oily rags in a pile. It's a fire hazard. So you got to after you've done them, you got to spread them out, let them off gas. I do that in my garage so that it's not stinking up the whole house, but it's kind of a hassle. Definitely dealing with anything oil-based is more of a hassle than water-based. So I don't know. I just wanted to try it true to form, to the way that Bob Ross does it, because he's my teacher. Yeah, I'm very pleased with how it's turning out so far. I feel pretty good about it. But I think also part of the issue is I'm working on a relatively small canvas. It's like a 9x12. The stuff that he's doing is typically much bigger. And I think I'm actually having a hard time because, I'm working on something so small. So it's like any mistake I make just looks very obvious. That's my excuse anyway. But I'm having a good time. I'm having a good time, and just still want to encourage you, if you have not tried something new like that and you're just afraid to do it, just try it. Just try it. If it's one thing if you can't make the investment or you don't have the time or anything like that. But if it's purely a matter of you're afraid of judging yourself or you're afraid of others judging you, maybe that will happen a little bit. But I will say it gets pretty rewarding pretty quick when you try something new like this, especially something creative and expressive. Absolutely, it's the same with writing. Maybe not so much in like trying out a fountain pen for the first time, though there is certainly a learning curve with that. But improving your handwriting, that is something that a lot of people get very scared of. I would say anytime, like if you're playing music, like performing music in front of someone, well, dancing too. I guess any performance or visual art, you're pretty exposed. Like it's pretty vulnerable. And a lot of people get hung up about that, but it's very rewarding. So anyway, just like improving your hand, just like practicing your handwriting, just like dancing, singing, playing a musical instrument, painting, watercolor, drawing, any of these things. There's just so many good YouTube videos out there, just so many of them. It's amazing. Like the time that we live in right now is incredible for trying to learn how to do stuff. I just love it. Anyway, what else have I done? Let's see here. The weather's been warmer. The snow is almost gone. We got a few little piles where stuff had been like plowed into parking lots and stuff like that. But basically we can see our grass again. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is more like Virginia. Now it's like in the 50s and 60s here. It's barely getting below freezing at night. I'm like, this is what I like. Let's do more of that, please. The forecast for the next like 2 weeks, not a chance of snow. It's not even going to get cold enough to snow, really. So I'm into that. My condolences if you live in a place where it's still snowing. Anyway, I actually went for a bike ride yesterday. It was cool. We had, well, yesterday, real time. We were closed for President's Day, and it was nice enough. It was like above 50 degrees. So I was like, I'm going for a bike ride. It's the first one I'd done in a month, and it was amazing. I'm very excited to be bike riding again when the weather permits it and it's warm enough and I have sunlight. That's my adventures for right now. Let's get into what's back there, because I get asked about this a lot. Gotta be honest with you, I'm not very good on guitar. Part of me has wanted to like practice well and be able to play something for you all on video. Again, I'm just talking about like performing, painting, whatever, being pretty vulnerable. I can get by on guitar. I did first pick up guitar when I was like 14, 15 years old. It was not the first instrument I played. I started on clarinet and singing and stuff like that. But I just got a guitar because I wanted to learn how to play guitar. I never feel like I was that great. I have very long fingers. It's very hard for me. I will say the neck spacing on this, it's a little bit wider neck. So I do like it in that way. But still, I'm just not the best guitarist. But I can knock out some campfire chords. I can play some worship songs. I can get by if I need to, but I usually have to practice quite a bit. And I am severely out of practice right now. Again, and I keep picking up new hobbies. So I am very out of practice. I'm not going to be able to play anything too fancy for you, but I at least want to talk about the guitar, right? I'm normally not that much of like a celebrity person or buy like endorsed products or whatever. Because I know the game. I know how marketing works and all that kind of thing. But the thing I will say about name guitars, they're usually a little bit more involved with the artists. And I always try to pay attention to that. I also have a guitar, an electric guitar that is a Paul Reed Smith that is the Mark Tremonti guitar. And that is very heavily involved in his design. It's kind of the same thing with Tim Henson's guitar here. It's like a hybrid of a classical and acoustic. So it's a very interesting guitar. This is an Ibanez. That's the brand. It is Tim Henson's signature. He's from Polyphia, the lead guitarist there. He is insanely good on guitar. So good that I'm like, yeah, I give up. You know. But apparently the backstory to this guitar that he designed, the model is called the Ibanez Tim Henson TOD10N. Okay. Apparently he found some older like hollow body guitar. Like this was kind of a weird guitar that he found in like Europe or something at I'm probably botching the backstory, that he found at like a secondhand store or a thrift store or something like that. And he fell in love with it. And Ibanez had been reaching out to him about designing a guitar. And he was like, well, if you can design me something like this, I'll do a guitar with you. And they were like, I think we can do that. So it's really like this hybrid guitar. So it is an acoustic electric, but it's a thin hollow body acoustic. So it's not quite as audible as a regular acoustic guitar because it's a thinner body, but it still has all the electronics built into here. And it's actually nice because it has a built-in tuner as well. So you don't have to keep track of that. But also it is a classical kind of design. So the main difference between classical guitar and a regular acoustic is that classical guitar typically use nylon threads. And it's meant more for like finger picking as opposed to like strumming out chords. And then you can usually tell by the head because you get, you know, these, you know, the tuners are a little different looking than a regular guitar. Usually kind of on the side like this, and you usually get these like wound things because it's like they need to be fatter because the nylon strings, if they're too tight, they can snap. So anyway, you get this different kind of design with a classical guitar. So what's interesting, you get the whole hollow body kind of acoustic electric thing going on. But then also he has it where he does 3 steel strings on the bottom and 3 nylon strings on the top. So it's kind of interesting. You get, you know, more of a conventional sound on the 3 bottom strings. And then you get more of like a ukulele type sound because they also use nylon strings on the top. So as you're finger picking, I also don't have any fingernails. Nope. I haven't played this song in a while. Nope. Whatever. You don't need to hear me practice. That was dust in the wind, by the way. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So it sounds kind of interesting. It's a little bit quieter of a guitar, which is part of why I keep it in my office here, because if I just want to like relax and unwind a little bit, plink something out, I'm not disturbing too many other people in the office. But also you can hook it up to your electronics and you can play something. It's kind of a unique sound. So go look up Tim Henson's playing if you see Polyphia. Playing God is one of his songs that he does. It's just sick that he does with his guitar. So that's it. And then this is also the guitar strap that has the same design because it's got like the rose thorn thing going on in the neck. And it's also got it on the strap too. So I was like, I'll buy the matching thing. It wasn't like a price gouge or anything like that. But it's just a beautiful guitar. And it's kind of weird for a guitar. Like there's not much else like it out there. And much like with fountain pens, when I buy musical instruments, I'm like, ooh, I want like the weird difference. I want to get as many different types of things as I can because I like having a variety and getting to try different things. So that's what this is all about. And then if you are a guitar player, a little bonus thing here. This is a stand made by Hercules, not a product placement. They make the best stands. It's portable, but it's very, very sturdy and I love it. Anyway. I think we're about done for today. I got to wrap up and then I got some fun facts about curling. So yeah, I just want to thank you for watching. This has been fun. Be sure to check out gouletpens.com for lots of ink, pen, and paper needs. And just, yeah, subscribe, all that good stuff. Okay, my fun facts here. The Winter Olympics are still going on right now. And it's a little bit nostalgic for me because just because of the timing of it. When Joseph, my son, was born, he was born right around the time that the Olympics started, the Winter Olympics. And so Rachel and I, we were early days of Goulet pens. We were working, but we were also, just at home doing the newborn thing a lot. So we were home during the day. We were up at all hours of the night and the Olympics were on. So we just watched a ton of the Winter Olympics and I never really knew what curling was, but that Vancouver 2010 Winter Olympics, we learned a lot about curling. And ever since I'm like, oh yeah, curling, that's a thing. I never pay attention to it except outside the Olympics. So I thought I would share a few interesting curling facts. So the magic island of granite. So almost every curling stone used in elite competition, including the Winter Olympics, is made from a specific type of granite found only on a tiny uninhabited island off the coast of Scotland called Isles of Craig. The island's granite is uniquely water resistant and dense, preventing it from absorbing moisture and cracking when colliding with other stones on the ice. Isn't that interesting? They're also very expensive. I think they're like 10 grand per stone or something crazy like that. Probably because you can only get it on this one specific uninhabited island. Okay. Mystery of the physics. Unlike most objects, curling stones defy standard physics. When a stone is rotated clockwise, it curves or curls to the right, whereas a glass or a bottle slid across the surface with the same spin would typically drift to the left. Physicists have spent years debating why this happens, with theories ranging from meltwater lubrication at the front of the stone to microscopic scratches in the ice created by the pebbles or water droplets. It's kind of interesting. And that sent me on a whole other rabbit hole. I won't get into it, but if you go to the Olympics website, you can see some stuff about curling on there. I watched a whole video about somebody that, the guy who's I forget what he was called, the ice something director or something. He was ice engineer, whatever. So he's responsible for the ice for curling. It's this whole involved thing. I had no idea. And he talks about pebbles or the water droplets on there. It's fascinating. Anyway, brooms used to be cleaning tools. So originally the brooms used in curling, you know, they're like scrubbing ahead of it. Originally they weren't for melting ice or controlling the speed. They were used to literally clear debris, because back when the game was played on frozen outdoor ponds, sweepers had to sweep away things like acorns and twigs and stuff like that, so that the stones wouldn't get stuck. So they were literally sweeping ahead of the stones because it was just purely practical. And then once the game moved indoors, players realized that the heat from the friction could be used to steer the stone, and that was sort of part of the evolution of the game. I think it's been around since the 1500s or something like that. But curling wasn't officially an Olympic sport until 1998, I think. It's crazy the sport's that old, but it's still relatively new to the Olympics. Anyway, and then lastly, players call their own fouls. So curling is governed by the spirit of curling, a formalized code of ethics that emphasizes sportsmanship over winning at all costs. It's one of the few sports where players are expected to call their own fouls, such as burning a stone by touching it with a broom or foot, even if no official or opponent saw the mistake. So it's kind of like the honor system, which is kind of cool. The thing that I appreciate about curling, I remember back in Vancouver in 2010, you know, they were showing like, you know, the different competitors and stuff like that. And yeah, there's lots of like professional athletes that are now in some other sports and stuff like that. But curlers, you know, you're not going to like make a living from being a professional curler. It's kind of you do it for the love of the sport. But there was this guy, middle-aged guy, like on his laptop, and they were talking about him, somebody from the US, and they were like, yeah, he's remote working because he couldn't get enough PTO to be in the Olympics. So he's got to kind of work in between his you know, whatever games that he's doing. And I was just like, I respect that hustle. Here I was like with a newborn at home. Rich and I are doing our business, and I was like, respect curlers. I think I don't know exactly who it was, but I heard somebody this Olympics, they were like a student at college or something like that, and had like a paper or something they needed to turn in. So they asked for an extension for their professor, because they were like, yeah, I'm currently at the Olympics and we progressed further in the competition, so I need an extension on my paper. I think she got it. So anyway, I love like the purity of the competition there for curling and the honor system and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's all I got for this week. I'll be back next week with more fun stuff. Please ask me some questions and leave me comments on the video here. That way I can see them and respond next week. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. Have a great week, and right on.